We visit with Robert Kiviat, followed by 4 hours with Dr. Melvin Morris on near-death experiences from children. And now, the best of Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell.
From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be across the cosmos out there in the world and beyond. Commercially, from the island of Guam in the west eastward to the Caribbean and the U.S. Virgin Islands, south into South America, north all the way to the pole. And worldwide, of course, on the internet, this is Coast to Coast AM, and I'm Art Bell. And I'd like to welcome new radio stations, new affiliates, new blood. WTCD in Indianola, Mississippi, 96.9 on the FM dial. 40,000 watts, 40,000 watts. That's a big one. WTCD FM in Indianola. Also, WTNM in Oxford, Water Valley, Mississippi, 105.5 on the dial with 6 big ones. And WFMM FM in Hattiesburg, Summerall, Mississippi, 97.3. Again, 6 big ones, 6,000 watts. I want to say hi to Paul Geltelli, I believe it is, Vice President, General Manager, John Winfield, the Ops Director there, and remind all of you that we're getting that close to 500 affiliates. In addition to that, we have pre-feeds every night. 3 hours of the previous night's program are available for any radio station that cares for the ratings and any listeners who would like to listen. And, of course, you can urge your radio station to perhaps try and pick up the refeeds 3 hours every night before the live show begins, as it does now. Boy, have I got something for y'all. Now, with anything that's sent to you anonymously, you have no way of knowing, of course, the validity of it. But I must tell you that I have in my hot little palm, and available for you on my website right now, one of the best UFO videos I've ever seen. It's entitled UFO Video from North Bay, Ontario. Oh, you have got to see this. It's from Mark Hutchins, and it was shot supposedly about 3 years ago near North Bay, Ontario. The website which originally had this, says Mark, is no longer operating. If it's a fake, it's a good one. I agree, Mark. If it's a fake, it's a good one. This one is awesome. I mean, it's really awesome, folks. Even the sound is awesome. And there is sound with this. So if you have a Windows Media Player, or it can be done on Real Player as well, don't forget to turn up the sound. Pretty wild stuff on my website right now. And I don't know that I can really get close enough to my speakers to play you the sound that goes with this. But I guess I could try. The microphone really isn't oriented that way.
You're still there? I'll put it, yeah.
Saucer's coming. Right overhead. Right overhead. That's the sound from it. It's obviously a British voice as you listen to it a few times. But this one's awesome. I mean, if it's, as he points out, if it's a fake, it's really, really, really a good one. You can see the saucer clearly a flying saucer, period. I mean, it has structure, it has detail, and it's all in a moving video, and it comes right over the cameraman's head. My, is it a good one? A really good one. May not be real, you never know. It's that good. You're going to go, it's too good. You know, that's what people do. And speaking of videos, there is a second case that we're going to talk about here in a moment. Maybe you've seen the news on the BBC. It was front page over there, entitled UFO Video Goes to Hollywood. A Derbyshire housewife has sold what she says is a video of a flying saucer to a Hollywood producer. Sharon Rowlands, 44, from the village of Bosnell in the Peak District, has reportedly been paid 20,000, they say pounds, but it's dollars, for the footage, and officials at NASA are said to have been asked to examine the tape because they believe it shows the same type of craft once spotted by the space agency's own cameras during a space shuttle mission. Ms. Rowland said that she took the film with a camcorder after hearing an eerie noise outside her home one evening in October of last year. She says she filmed the object while it hovered in the sky about 2 miles away. And I'm reading from the BBC report, which we've got on my website right now. And now, in addition to that, who, you might ask, did she sell it to? Well, she sold it to the man that I've got on the line right now, Robert Kiviat. Robert Kiviat, we've had on before. He came to Burbank, California in 1992 after writing a cover article for Omni magazine about the face on Mars, producing a high-profile mystery for Geraldo Rivera's nationally syndicated TV show Now It Can Be Told. Robert was seeking the largest viewing audience and finest production value for his many exclusive stories and agreed to move from New York and join NBC's Unsolved Mysteries. After his Canadian UFO landing, video-driven story led the NBC show to a whopping 16.5 rating. Oh my God. /25 share on February 3rd of 93. The network's on-air promo department utilized many of Robert's stories to promote the series episodes. By the mid-1990s, Fox Network brought Robert in to help establish credibility for a new show called Encounters, and it was shortly thereafter that Robert scooped other journalists by securing exclusive rights to the alien autopsy footage and North American television coverage. NBC ironically passed on Robert's alien autopsy project, but you'll recall Fox eagerly picked it up and jump-started their reality TV specials department with the airing of Alien Autopsy Fact or Fiction on August 28th of 95. Unprecedented Fox ratings, full-page article in Time magazine, an enormous amount of other media buzz led Fox to pick up a succession of widely watched primetime TV specials from Robert, including Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction, Miracles and Visions, Fact or Fiction, Prophecies of the Millennium, UFOs, the best evidence ever caught on tape, World's Greatest Hoaxes, Secrets Finally Revealed, Ghosts Caught on Tape, Fact or Fiction, and UFOs, the best evidence ever caught on tape. So, now Robert has again secured what nobody else could get, a very special tape from Great Britain that the BBC ran as front page, right at the top of the newscast type news. So, but we've got a link to this article, the BBC, which you can read now on my website. In a moment, Robert Kiviat will actually explain to us all why he forked over 20 grand for this film. Well, at moments of high drama, very high drama in the past, like the alien autopsy, and just all kinds of high drama in the UFO world, the man behind it has been Robert Kiviat, as he is now behind something brand new, and he's always been kind enough to come here and usually give us a little sneak preview of what he just got in the bag. And this time, he's really got one in the bag. Robert, welcome to the program.
Oh, good to be with you, Art. How are you?
I'm fine. My. I should have figured it was you. I had no idea who had purchased. I went, wow, this must be good stuff for somebody to pay 20 grand. And I thought, I wonder who did this. And then somebody mentioned your name. So you gave this lady 20 grand, huh?
Well, what seems to have happened is, and it's one of those things that something from our general research development area in our company, and Kiviat Productions, my company, we were researching for many, many stories of the phenomena kind for a series that we're developing called Could It Be True? Mm-hmm. And in this series, we're literally going to separate the fact and fiction or fiction from all the great cases that may well be true proof of either UFOs, phenomena, whatever the category. I think a lot of people call it paranormal, but I don't even understand that term because I came in as a journalist for Omni magazine and for TV in general. And to me, a journalist is looking for a great story. It doesn't really matter whether or not it's UFOs or...
Okay, this is not the paranormal, or at least I don't think it is.
I don't even understand what that term means, and I've heard people call paranormal TV and put my shows in those categories. Even the X-Files, I'm not sure what would be paranormal TV. But anyway, we were developing this series, and we're doing our general covering the beat of UFOs, which is one of our big beats of all the phenomena we cover. And sure enough, we came across this videotape. Now, this videotape probably, and the main reason that the British press picked it up as a huge story, I don't think is about the license fee. And again, what people are keying on is the supposed license fee of what this woman who shot the video will earn for letting the broadcasters of the world, including me if I break it exclusively, which now I am in position to do, I don't think that's that big a deal, because if you break it down per minute of how long of a clip this is, it's not really that much money, Art. What we're really talking about is how great is the video, and that's the issue.
Bob, how great is the video?
Okay, so when we talk about UFO videos, and you and I have talked even today about the one you mentioned at the top of your show.
The one I've got, yes.
They could be amazing visual spectacles, but the issue is going to be like in a courtroom. Where did the video come from? Does it have a provenance? Can we track it? Can we meet the people who allegedly shot it? And maybe did they manufacture it? And so what I get a kick out of are these cases that have no provenance, or the provenance is so sketchy that if it was a painting in an art museum, you would laugh the owners or the alleged owners out of the room.
Sure.
But still, we in the media, and especially journalists, tend to look kind of down our noses at cases like these. And then we, I'm not saying myself, by the way, I'm saying in general, I kind of tend to go the other direction, and my staff does as well.
Actually, I look down my nose at 99% of what's sent to me never sees my website. The only ones that I put up are the ones where, and still I don't know, it could be a total fake, but the ones where I go, oh my God. when I do that, I know it has to go on the website.
And usually the ones we've noticed is that we go, oh my God, about are the ones that come in anonymously, that nobody wants to stand behind. And let's face it, if you shot a video of what might be an extraterrestrial spacecraft from God knows where, you're not going to be silent and anonymous about it. I mean, if you happen to get one like this woman shot it,
yes,
which is a perfect, if there might be a perfect scenario, this might be the perfect scenario. It was a wave of UFO activity over this part of England toward the later part of last year. And at the time of this UFO wave, not unlike Gulf Breeze, not unlike other places here in the United States, Mexico City for one.
Right.
That's not the United States, obviously, but other parts of this continent and the lower part of it, we have seen waves of activity. And so this was just like that, and nobody had yet captured during the wave anything on tape. And sure enough, this woman captured on tape what might be the best visual evidence of a structured craft appearing to come close to her, look at her, give her a good look, and then go back and come forward and go back.
All right. Bob, everybody who's got a computer is going to be able to see the craft or whatever it is in a still photograph that we've got a link up to right now. But that's all we can see. What you have is a video that, lasts about how long?
Well, it's 6.5 minutes.
Oh, that's pretty long.
And what has to be kept in mind about the video, it is just one of those things where you can tell just by the way she shot it, not only have we researched it and met the woman, but of course you can hear the reality of it just by watching it. And there she appears to be just happenstance. She had the video camera fairly close by, noticed something out the window or out her front door, got outside, stood there, shot the thing not knowing what she's looking at, and it all takes place in that 6.5 minutes right on recorded video, so there's no question what we're looking at. Now, the problem seems to be with cases like these, some experts will say, well, the camera can create very strange shapes when it's struggling to see and make focus a bright light in the distance. But when you take all the issues into account, you realize this is a light that appears out of nowhere, appears to come right at her and shine or display, whichever you may want to call it.
What is the best guess about its altitude at the closest and its size at the largest?
Hard to say, and those are all the issues that we're dealing with. But if you look at the video, it looks like it's coming right on top of her.
Oh, yeah.
It shoots very close to her and then seems to drop back, but it shows the same pulsing color pattern, changing a little bit here and there, colors definitely, but as it gets smaller, it maintains its form, and if it was indeed an in-camera artifact of some kind, you would not see that. So all the experts that we've shown it to so far believe that it is literally what you see.
All right,
now,
what about NASA? Bob, NASA, and I've seen a craft like this before. And I think you've seen a craft like this before, haven't you?
All right, again, I don't want to come on the show tonight and act utterly sensational and start saying things that sound like an X-file or, with due respect to Chris Carter, I don't think he can make this up. So let's get right to the point you're saying. Last year on Fox, we aired a show called UFOs, the Best Evidence Ever Caught on Tape #2.
That's right.
Based on the success of the first one and a lot of other things, they did a second one during their May sweeps. And in that show, we premiered, it had been on the internet a little bit, but it was a videotape shot by NASA, or better yet, a live event sent down to the Earth where one of their satellites had a malfunction, and the cameras are watching it float off into space, this very technical move, without getting into all the technicalities. It was a very long tether of material that was glowing with a kind of phosphorus material. And as the camera zoomed in to watch this thing float away, because even, disasters in space, they record that too.
Sure.
Or go live, in this case live. Sure enough, these UFOs appear, and they appear to be circling with a rotating pattern and sort of a revolving pattern as well, and they seem to be going behind this tether. So we aired this footage on Fox for the first time last year. We noticed that the UFO seemed to have a very, classic shape, a disc, a very clear disc, with a very weird notch on the edge, like someone had taken a bite out of it.
Exactly.
And there was also a little circle in the middle that was pulsing weirdly and almost seeming to spin in place.
That's right.
Now, NASA and other people that we've spoken to, mostly off the record, have not been able to explain anything logically about this. And I know there are people on the internet right now that could, they're listening right now, can go to certain websites and they could actually see these UFOs that appear to be behind the tether.
The important part is with the notch out of them, or like a bite taken out of them. That's something to remember.
Right, and the circle in the middle is indeed exactly what we have on this new video from England.
This is what the lady photographed.
Right, so here's the X-File, if you will, if you're writing a drama, which I like to stay in the reality end, so let's stick with the basics. A good story, usually a true one, is as good as any fiction, if not better. So here's the line. The line is, can you imagine a UFO shot by NASA and recorded on videotape by many people here down on Earth that appears to show UFOs going behind this 90-mile-away tether? That means these UFOs are like 3 miles wide.
Right.
The same thing, or very similar, was recorded over England in October. So why would that be? And now if a camera is the same as NASA uses, then maybe we could say it's the same shape caused by the camera trying to make sense of light. But I don't see it. So right now, if you remove that, you're dealing with a great mystery, and we are now talking to the right people, really, to get NASA to go public about this and say, okay, well, why don't we consider discussing for the first time the chance that our own cameras have captured UFOs in space? They tend to always poo-poo the stuff as if it's debris, ice that was released by the exhaust of the shuttle, or
anything but usually.
Exactly. Never that there's an object out there that, you know what, guys, we don't know what this is. Now, the explanations for what they saw in space that we aired last year, and the new one, I mean, God only knows what they're going to say about the new one, but the old one from last year, and it actually was shot 3 years or videotaped 3 years before, I have to say to you that the answers that we're getting are rather nonsensical, and I say that with all due respect. Things like, well, the camera was trying to make sense again of an object far away, and some of the answers I've gotten, and not from NASA particularly, because keep in mind, NASA is a huge organization, and there's many scientists that have been affiliated, and there's many that will talk to you either on the record or off the record about UFOs.
Robert, real quickly, at best, how much of the screen was filled with this object at the best point?
Great question. When you have let's say you have a 19-inch television screen, at some point, right directly in the middle, it's about 6 or 7 inches.
Really? Really? That's pretty big.
I love that because, again, you're asking the key question I was getting to with my little rambling about the NASA issue. NASA has been very open, at least to me, or at least some of their best people, about talking to me about these possibilities. But for the first time, I'd like to see if this could be the time they come on and say, let's look at this very seriously. You see detail. You see structure.
Oh, yes.
You see possibly exhaust areas. If it's a light being emitted by some special lighting device to emulate a UFO, to hoax an entire town where UFOs have been seen for months before and after.
Well, and NASA did it too.
Yeah, so then you look at that.
Robert, hold on a moment. We're at the bottom of the hour.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Robert Kiviat is my guest. He's got a brand new piece of footage, and it's a whopper. That would be me. Robert Kiviat is here, Bob Kiviat, who's been responsible for a lot of what you've seen: Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction, Miracles and Visions, Fact or Fiction, Prophecies of the Millennium, UFOs, the Best Evidence Ever Caught on Tape, and on and on and on. And now he's found this housewife in Great Britain who has this incredible hunk of footage of a craft, which you will be seeing, and you can sort of get a sense of it. It's very much like one NASA took, as he mentioned. It's on my website under a program and tonight's guest info, and you can link right over to the BBC article, which has a photograph of the video that Bob has. He's paid the license fee for, and then I tell you, without providence, absolutely without providence, I have one up there that will take your breath away under what's new video, UFO video from North Bay, Ontario, will take your breath away. But there is zero providence on it. And I don't know if I'd say zero confidence. It's one of the best fakes I've ever seen, or it's the real thing. You decide. It's up there right now. Back now to Bob Kiviat. And Bob, I'm curious, this housewife, why did she go outside with a camcorder in the first place? I mean, how did she happen to catch this? Part of the providence.
It's a good question. Our understanding is that she actually was watching TV. It's wonderful. She's watching television, and she's glancing off in the distance past the TV, one side or the other, and there she sees something, and she mentions to her husband to take a look, and you kind of hear it unfold on the tape, and she kind of get interested as she sees it through the viewfinder, and then it starts to behave very strangely, and you hear her kind of narrate the whole thing.
I see.
It's rather incredible because, again, and providence isn't always the best, and one of the things I aired on NBC back in '93, and I mentioned at the introduction, was this video that's known as the Guardian video.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a videotape that was disseminated rather nicely. It was given to two top UFO researchers, one in England, one in the USA. Luckily, we had just had on our show, now it can be told with Geraldo Rivera, a guy that, when I was there in New York, and as I was moving over to Unsolved Mysteries, I had this story that had just broken of a UFO appearing to land in a Canadian field. And it was sent in by the Guardian with a fingerprint, and no one knows who this guy is. So here we are, probably, now almost 10 years later, with a mystery that no one knows where the video came from.
So the Guardian provided his, presumably, his fingerprint.
It's a fingerprint, Art. It looks like someone printed, not a real kind of fingerprint the police would take off of an object, but a printed fingerprint. And it looked like maybe it could be a real fingerprint, and the UFO researchers looked into it, and they couldn't figure out what it was. No organization of officialdom could figure out who the fingerprint belonged to.
I was figuring maybe the Guardian would be back shortly for his residuals with his fingerprint.
You know, it's one of the most amazing videos to date, and I don't think there's been like an ounce of research that found any closure who this person is. And there are people, and I won't mention on the radio tonight, who are studying it very heavily. And the guy who broke it, a guy named Bob Exler, and to some degree a guy named Timothy Good, they were the ones who got this videotape sent to them. And Bob Exler for sure, has been studying it to this day. Again, almost 10 years later, Art.
Oh, there you are. See, that's what happens to me, Bob. These things are like the one I've got up there tonight. They're dropped in my lap, and no providence. Here it is, bud.
Well, those are the cases that, unfortunately, most TV producers and journalists alike, and being both, I have to tell you that we tend to shy away from anonymousness, or anonymity, if you were. But I will say this, that does not mean you throw it out. You have to look at it. You have to say, why would someone send in? In this case, the one, I guess, on their website, what is 20 seconds?
About 20 seconds.
If only the people at home knew what you could do with 20 seconds of video, or how little it would cost to create something very powerful.
Yeah, we live in a new world.
Well, we think we showed this, and again, we're trying, and if the viewers at home go, well, I watch your shows, or listeners at home say, well, we were viewers, and we saw our shows, and it's not 100% proven, but I could say one thing. There are cases that we've shown in our show shows across the board that we cannot explain. They're as mysterious as the day we saw it. And there are cases like on our World's Greatest Hoaxes show for Fox that we believe you could stamp them hoax right now. But there are people who still say, oh, no, there's still a possibility.
Well, let me ask you this, Bob. Alien autopsy, the famous alien autopsy, did it show up on the World's Greatest Hoaxes?
Absolutely.
It did.
That's the last time, Art. I'm sure you're jesting. No, the last time you had me on was when we did World's Greatest Hoaxes.
That's right.
And we were revealing for the first time evidentiary. I mean, we're talking about courtroom-type evidence that looked like the case, the entire alien autopsy, was a hoax. We were the same production, same producer, me, same writer, same guy who said it might be real, and was now saying 3 years later, I don't think it is.
And I bet you did almost as well on the ratings.
Exactly. We did almost as well on a Monday night against Monday Night Football.
Yep.
I said to the guys at Fox, come on, I mean, look at this. We need to get into many more cases, a lot of stuff to clean up, and great stuff to break. And they're like, well, we'll think about it. And sure enough, here we are, doing specials for them. But, we're trying, and we're talking about doing a new case as well. So, again, Could It Be True is the series that we hope will sort of clean up the phenomenal end of TV and get to what's possibly real and throw out the stuff that's completely ridiculous. And I have to say there are a few cases that look great at the start, but they fall apart. And you got to be honest and say, you know what, the case is looking a little shaky, and if it looks really shaky, you tell the public. And that's what we're doing. We're moving up a story from a maybe to a possibility to maybe not.
So then this particular footage is going to be in a show called?
Well, the show is the series that we're presenting to, actually 2 major networks are involved, but we will say this, that we have done a lot of shows for Fox. We are talking to Fox. We assume that we'll get the best possible, consideration there for the series. And by the way, can I just take a second and tell you, there are 2 other cases in the last year of UFO-related video.
Yes, tell me.
There's another case breaking, and I think you may have heard about it. A very nice guy, a guy named Santiago Yature, I'm probably not saying his name particularly right there, but he's from Mexico.
Okay.
And he has done a wonderful job with a case that's really making a lot of people who've seen it, like me, extremely interested. It appears that this family was going from Washington State down to Monterrey, Mexico, and so they're crossing the Texas area back in December. And again, the video camera's out, they're on a trip, and sure enough, something is outside their car window. And they pull over to the side of the road, and what unfolds again in about I would say 5, 6, 7 minutes, is a wonderful UFO event that again has to be put into the same echelon as what we're talking about here. An incredible display of what appears to be a UFO form into a plume of some kind, like a mushroom. Then it seems to transform into a rocket-like device, all on video.
Now you're getting into paranormal.
It's strange. And again, I think you can say with a degree of certainty, any jury, I think, if you showed the video to any jury without knowing much more than this family claims they shot it, I don't think you could argue that innocent family members are in a car and they appear to be shooting it, and it's not a hoax. And again, the provenance is clear. There is no issue. But what's even more amazing, and Santiago's been trying to educate me about this the last couple of weeks. I've been really busy on this other case, but sure enough, I've been hearing a lot about it. And it looks like the family had UFOs follow them back to their house in Washington State, and sure enough, they're videotaping them. So it's like the Gulf Breeze, case down in Florida from years ago, but now it's a woman, and the UFO seems to be following her on her trips. Now, I say the woman because there seems to be some feeling that the wife in this family might be the center of it, but who knows? I mean, she was holding the video camera when the first event happened in Texas. I'm not sure if that means whoever's on this craft. And again, Art, I think it's important to start saying words clearly. The term reality TV hasn't meant very much lately with shows like Survivor. And,
have you secured this new video?
We're now negotiating, and obviously, I'm not going to start talking about money because every time.
No, that's right. That's right.
I will say this.
But you're working on it.
The issue is this: Santiago, again, like David Sarita, who talked about the UFO event back in the tether footage that we talked about NASA, which compares to the new British case.
It sure
David
does.
Sarita was on your show. David was on my last UFO show. Santiago was on my last UFO show. It's natural for sources to come back to you with the cases that you have. They have. So basically, Santiago and I are talking. There's no guarantee that it will pan out. Neither will. We never know if any case, Art, isn't going to become something other than what we thought, even during or before the airing, and even after the airing. So we're trying to get the public the best evidence and see if it stands,
I understand. Bob, I got a question for you.
Sure.
This is purely speculative, so you don't have to answer this. But, I mean, if Dan Golden is sitting at home, NASA's Dan Golden, watching, I don't know, he probably watches NASA Select all the time. I don't know. And he notices something out the window. Honey, look at that. Grabs his camcorder. Dan Golden runs out into his front yard and films something like this lady did, comes back in. What do you think Dan Golden does with the footage? That's a more important question than you know.
That's an interesting question, because if there was undisputed evidence of any UFO, that clearly was a mechanical craft that didn't come from any country on Earth, I have to believe that any NASA organization or any one of our Defense Department organizations, and there are many, I got to believe they would go public with that.
You think Dan would go public?
Well, we're about to test it, because here's where we're going. We're going to ask the top people at NASA, the office you just said, to comment finally about two things. The UFO video in space that was captured during the tether footage on tape by some intrepid videographers down here with their VCRs, and the new video in Britain. And we may throw in the bonus question is, was David Cerrito blacked out during one of the Art Bell shows? And, he's the guy who talked about that footage. I don't know what to make of it, Art. Did you see the tether footage? Are you aware of it?
Yes, of course I've seen it, yes.
Now, so you know the shape and the structure.
Oh, sure. Hey, listen, it's a match for this baby. There's no question about it. It's the same thing.
How would you react if someone told you that both were created by some camera struggling to make sense of a bright light?
Well, then I would say, I don't know, I would say a few things that I better not repeat on the radio about NASA. So I think you paid a good license fee here is what I think. I think this is a good thing you've got, and I think it's going to be inexplicable for NASA, but I don't know, maybe they'll say, let's see, if I were going to try to pretend to be NASA, I might say, well, under similar lighting conditions, we could produce similar results, both for the lady in England and for our own footage.
And we're going to see
tether footage.
And that's what Could It Be True is about, Art. We're about to try to find out.
That's what I think I'd say.
And we want them to participate in that and be active in some way and say, okay, if you make a claim that the video can be explained that easily,
then let's have it.
Hey, help us understand what that camera was in space. Let's compare it to the one that was down here on Earth, and figure out, well, how could two images, one in space and one over Britain, be so similar?
And do you think you've got the channels open wide enough to actually get them on camera and talk about this?
Well, my feeling is the openness. When I wrote for Omni Magazine back in the early 90s, and they talked about the face on Mars with me, one thing they said about the face on Mars, we're going to try to get one good picture and dispute, and hopefully, once and for all, be able to dispute any claim that it is artificial.
Well, they just took that picture.
Now, I ask you, so they finally came clean, I think, and showed the best photograph they could possibly take. What do you think of the image?
Well, I think it doesn't end the controversy. When I first looked at the image, I said, they were right all along. It looks like a pile of rocks. And I still, to some degree, think that. However, I do also see what all the people who are making lots of noise now are saying, and that is if you cover half the face and you look at it, it becomes something else. And then look at the other half, and it becomes something else again. And as you know, Mr. Hoagland has said all along, all these many years, that it would be hominoid and feline. And sure enough, if you look at it carefully, you can see how people arrive at that conclusion. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that it really is that? I haven't made up my mind at all.
I always find it interesting when they leave out They describe the face on Mars, and they being any debunker, any skeptic, anybody who thinks it couldn't be. And I'm not just saying NASA, anybody. Anybody who doesn't believe it's a face that was created by any unknown, some unknown species or some unknown race, keep in mind that you have a pyramid very nearby, as Richard, I'm sure, has educated your listeners over the years.
Yes.
An amazing array of objects positioned on the surface by Cydonia, which doesn't seem to make sense.
I know.
And the people who look at that area, like Errol Turin, formerly from the Defense Mapping Agency, I'm not sure if he's even there anymore, guys like this, I mean, top guys, Dr. Mark Carlotto, these are people that rival anybody that the NASA group has. And these guys have worked with those same sectors, and they believe, at least until now I believe, I haven't heard anything otherwise, that it still looks artificial to them.
I know.
So I'm sitting here going, when will we really start to study these things seriously so that we can say once and for all, it is or it isn't, and move on? Based on Mars, we may have to go there, or we may have to actually get a piece of that thing and bring it back and look at it before anyone's going to be conclusively...
Well, you know, when they finally do set the Mars mission, the manned mission, if we ever get one, it's going to be interesting to see where they decide to land on Mars.
I still believe, as the cover of that Omni magazine article from many, many years ago, in '94, that I wrote, I still believe the cover said it all. Eventually you'll see an astronaut walking toward the face of pyramid-like structures, and people are going to be watching on television.
I hope we live long enough to see it.
I think it will still be a mystery by then.
Well, this TV show you're working on that has... will probably have, certainly this one piece of footage, if not both you've talked about.
Well, that's just the beginning.
And
I
much more. When might this come to fruition, would you guess?
My feeling is, and we're in talks now, obviously, with Fox and with the other network, which will remain nameless, but at this point I will say that our goal is to get the footage on the air by the early fall, the latest. So could it be true we'd launch the series with an amazing hour? And there's one other story you should be aware of.
Yes?
Actually, many, you and I could talk for hours.
I know.
But there's one case that is about a Bigfoot shot in the Everglades in Florida. And the videotape made the news back in the summer last year. And we just worked out, finally, the arrangement where we're going to be airing it. And it's going to show, again, many minutes, or at least a couple of minutes, of a Bigfoot man-like creature walking in the Everglades. It is either, again, a hoax or the real thing.
Is it as good, technically, as the Patterson film?
I'll let the viewer decide, but I will say this. At least there's a direct provenance. The guy is alive, and boy, I'll say is he alive. He's a very interesting guy, and he has a lot to say about people who think he's a faker. And we like that because, again, he takes anybody on. And the video, by the way, again, follows many years of sightings in the area of the Everglades down in Florida. And, again, a legend has been built about the skunk ape, chiefly because there's been some photographs taken. So photographs were first.
Some pretty doggone good photographs, actually.
Now the video.
Yeah.
And, again, there are people who will say it can't be real. But we're saying, wait a minute. The news took it seriously. We're just like them. We're news people. We take it seriously. Until you can say it's not, at least you have the provenance.
Listen, the provenance on the pictures, I know, is really good. I mean, the lady, that was not given to any news organization, nor sold, nor anything. The lady gave it to the sheriff's department.
Right. Now, you're talking about the one that is most recent, and it's tied to that other video I'm telling you about.
Yep.
And again, it's a local area where some might say orangutan, some might say there are creatures similar to this that could be explained as natural, but or known species. But again, Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster. Again, I have two cases now, two. One in Australia where a sea monster apparently washed up on an Australian beach.
A sea monster.
And actually a Turkish Loch Ness Monster caught on tape.
Turkish?
Like the cameraman had a shoot with the creature.
Listen, you're right. We could spend hours, but we're out of time.
Amazing.
You are definitely at the top of your game, my friend. We will talk again. We'll schedule a longer appearance because there's a lot we could talk about. Bob Kiviat, thank you.
Thank you, Art.
And good night. And the BBC article that has just a single shot from the video of what Bob Kiviat did is on my website. Just go to program, tonight's guest info, and the BBC article. For the new UFO that I've got up there that's a mind blower, under What's New, it's a video with audio. It says video, UFO video from North Bay, Ontario, under What's New. Check it out.